said earlier on that you have a condition. What is that condition?
So my condition is adenomyosis. So you have endometriosis, adenomyosis, and PCOS, like the main 3 that will be chucked around.
So are there any recommendations for women out there with these conditions, especially PCOS?
The most common thing with PCOS is that they have insulin resistance. So when you have insulin resistance, basically your carbs don't digest properly. I would say if someone came to me with PCOS, would look into what they are actually struggling with first of all. You're managing your diet. Carbs are not bad, but when you have insulin resistance, you have to be clever with when you intake carbs and how you intake your carbs. You touched on the mission at the start is to empower other people. You don't have to be a bodybuilder or a competitive bodybuilder or get on stage to prove that you can do things with a condition or be a woman, but just to show you what you can do when you put your mind to something.
Why don't people see health as the one investment they should be making, like a non-negotiable thing?
People that know they have a problem seek help. But most people don't. Most people think that it's normal to wake up feeling shit. It's not normal. Welcome back to the PerformWell Podcast. This is the podcast for you if you're looking for performance and wellness optimization so that you can not only smash your career, but also have a better life, better relationships, and better health. We believe that performance and wellness are yin and yang and work together. So listen in as we dive into topics that are going to help you optimize your life for the better. Welcome back, guys. This is Amy Richardson. She is a online fitness coach and PT, and obviously been a PT for a while. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
Good.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm doing mighty fine. I'm always great, to be
It
honest.
is lovely weather, as you can see. We've got the most beautiful view today.
Well, we've got a beautiful view of your bar.
It's like Marbella. Look at the golden corgi.
The golden corgi. Oh, yeah, the sneaky golden corgi that you just set out the back. Rambo the golden corgi.
Yeah.
Right, Amy, we want to deep dive into some things today because we've got a very interesting topic areas that we want to hit with you.
Yes.
Now, based on the information that's out there right now around women's health and women's fitness, can you give us what your mission, your story is, and what's driving you on to push more information and more positive information out there to women's health and fitness?
So in regards to that, there is more that's available. I mean, we're obviously doing our education to try and make sure that women are aware of what they have going on and how to deal with it. But I think it's still, there's lack of information around certain conditions, which obviously what we're going to dive into today. But my mission is, since being diagnosed, obviously wanting to help my clients that I have currently, but also just generalize putting information out there online, and then just helping clients that are potentially wanting to be coached to help them navigate around it. And if they know what their conditions are, or if they have symptoms, to be able to understand how to actually use that and not work against it, work with it. So I know I'm only a one-person band, but yeah, the more you put out there, the more people resonate with it, and the more they can get information from it. Even if I just help 2 people, that's great, and then it can pass on. So yeah, obviously doing something like this as well is brilliant, because it can help educate other coaches as well in helping their clients too. So yeah, there's more that people could do, but it's definitely getting better, I believe.
It's lovely having you on. I mean, I'm
you.
not going to say that I'm an expert in females' issues. I mean, there's a lot of them from what I've seen over the years.
Yes.
And you girls do have it hard, to be fair. I've always said that men, it's easier to get a physical change from them, but it's harder to get them to commit, whereas women commit, but then they've got a lot more problems that you need to address.
Yeah, I would say with like I have coached men as well, and your hormones are just nice and steady, whereas obviously
it's like a seesaw.
Yeah.
Just
nice.
that, just one seesaw.
It's so much easier.
Women is like 6 seesaws.
Yeah.
Like,
so I wouldn't necessarily see like problems, because not everyone has like conditions, but just working with generalized like menstrual cycles, and then if you have a condition on top of that, it just amplifies things even more. So yeah, just having that education available is just really handy.
Well, I'm all ears today, guys. Although I've got some experience, the terminology you threw at me today, it sounded like some Klingon language that I've never heard before.
Yes.
It can sound scary, but it's not. And I think, like you said, the more you do know about it, the easier it can be processed. So, but yeah, something you were saying about, just generalization, like even just GP knowledge. Like I'm by no means like a medical professional, but in regards to how much I've had to learn about myself and other clients, there's a lot that the GPs lack in that they give you. They're just sort of, here you go, off you go with this and that, and they don't give you anything to actually help you.
They don't get a lot of education on certain problems. I think they get like a base level where they tick a box like multi-selection, and then it means that you've passed that area of it. But especially training and nutrition, they're absolutely dreadful. No offense to them, life or death situation. You want doctors, you want hospitals. They're really good at that job.
Yeah.
But it's the stuff that we obviously help with.
Well, the thing is with GPs as well, it's kind of a tick box exercise to kind of tick off what it's not rather than what it is. Yeah. So a lot of the time there's not that kind of more practical approach. It's what you deliver. You deliver a more practical, understanding, story-driven approach. And I tell you what, very similar to an experience I literally had in the last couple of weeks. And, you know, you've been in the same gym as me. I train a lot of women. I'm very used to ladies coming in, having conversations around this. And it's nice to kind of explore this area, which I didn't have much understanding 4 or 5 years ago. And it's so nice when you have those kind of like detailed conversations about what's up, like, is this going on, this going on. One of the key things I noted was that I had a client come in that had a really, really rough time with their period, like really rough time with feeling almost like so much pain that they couldn't train. And it was eye-opening for me that they still wanted to come in and exercise nonetheless. So can we dive into that a little bit? What is it like training with like severe ovarian pain, cramps? How do you get through that?
Cool. So if you're looking at it from like a general female, most of the time we'll have a 28-day cycle, like generally. And I think it's really important that not a lot of females even know their own bodies. So they'll just assume that a period is obviously when you bleed, which isn't the case. So you get your period, but alongside that you get the follicular phase. So that's like the first phase that runs with it. Then you'll ovulate, and then at the end it's your luteal phase. So generally in the follicular phase, you'll feel your best. And even though that runs alongside the period, so your period generally is 5 days long for most women, it depends on the individual. If we're looking at it from like a grand scheme of things, like if we take away the conditions and like the medical, you know, diagnosis, we're just looking at it from like a general period, it depends on how that feels for you in a scale. So I use mine, let's say for me, unfortunately I do have a condition, but I'll do it on like a 1 to 5 scale. So if 5 is for me like bedbound, can't move, like can't leave the house, so obviously that's not training for me on those days. That would be a case of like just looking after nutrition, making sure I stay hydrated and rest, most importantly. But a lot of the time, movement is medicine. So if you do get out and you are able to get a gym session, you just need to mentally think about that before you go into that session and think, actually, this isn't the session for PBs, progression. It's just me showing up and moving my body, maybe just to get some blood flow. Because although, again, this is very, generalized, it's so different from women to women. So if you feel you can go in and you can do a session, absolutely fantastic. If you can't, then allowing yourself to mentally allow that rest is also, you have to advocate for yourself in regards to that. You're, like if you're saying to a client if they're poorly or if they're ill or if they've got an injury, you'd say the same thing. Like, rest is the most important thing, but you have to understand like where that line is for you. And I think, when we generalize it, like, oh, women, where would you train on your period? I think if I'm suggesting to an average client and you're having your periods, I think nothing particularly needs to change. You don't need to change your training around your cycle unless we start looking into like the intricate things of your personal experience, and then you could potentially change it around that. Do you have specific rest days? Do you have specific deloads around those times? But great that your client showed up, and I'm sure that even just having a small session mentally is more beneficial than physically sometimes in those situations. Like I was saying about like the phases. So in your follicular phase, normally when you feel pretty good, like after you bleed, we feel pretty good. But if, again, generalization, you probably only have around about a week where we feel pretty good. Then ovulation comes, that's for a day, and then again you feel your best on that day, because that's your body saying like, right, this egg needs fertilizing now, like we need to impregnate. So yeah, like that's when you're feeling like you're most confident. And then after that is the luteal phase, and luteal phase is the build up to before you start bleeding again. So that is generally when women start getting more cravings, when they start feeling more self-conscious, when they feel more fatigued, because your body is like getting ready basically for a pregnancy or that next period again. So you can work with your cycle if you want to, you can change things around, but generally for me, like I think it's when you do that, you can then put yourself at disfavor of progressing, because if you think about it realistically, if you have a bog standard period, if everyone worked this way and we had our 28-day period, in that first phase where you feel the best, we're probably, like I said, looking at about a week and a half. Well, a week and a half of progression, and then if the rest you're like, oh, I'll just deload here and like reduce stuff, you're not going to make much progress. So I really think it's going to have to be down to what you feel. Get to know your cycle first of all, because like I said, everyone is so different. We don't just bleed for 5 days. You don't have 28 days. Everyone is very different. That's the general rule of thumb. But if you can plan around that, great. But yeah, take the days as I would say, take the days as they come to get the most out of your training. But yeah, sorry, that was a lot long-winded way.
And to be fair, like if you throw into consideration as well that obviously loads of females are taking different types of contraception, like it just it messes it up even more. Like I won't go too personal with Emma, but I know some women have had certain types of contraception where they've had no period and they don't have this up and down phase, and then others where they have periods whilst they're taking contraception and it's even more horrific.
So you know, there's only so much education I know on like the different contraceptions you can take. Personally, I don't, just because it doesn't help me. But in regards to, like, let's say, you know, like the typical pill, you'd take it for so long and then you'd have a forced period. So you'd have like that week bleed forced. So it might not actually be where you naturally should bleed. And then, you know, you've got to take in consideration if this is a client and they don't know when their natural cycles are because they just back to back their pills all the time, then you'd have to take that into consideration as well in regards to their training and how they feel whilst they're on the pill. But a lot of people do it because of the issues that we experience, and it is kind of like a, you know, a cover up. Yes, they work in regards to contraceptives, but I would say, like, you know, I'm not going to advocate for every female ever, but most females are put on contraceptive because of the pain that they experience, and that is something that GPs just kind of give you to stop your pain, unfortunately. So then, yeah, you've got that to take in consideration as well. But I think the biggest point here is just to learn your body, and the more education you have on like the generalized menstrual cycle, then you can work with that in regards to your own personal symptoms as well.
Do you think in some regards as well, this is me playing devil's advocate here, there's a lot of social media clout, should we say, online, try and find the right words for this. There's some stuff that have gone viral before for like showing a bloke training and then a woman training through their phases, which I think kind of, it does over dramatize things a little bit, because as you say, it makes some people who probably don't have, this is me trying to just say we need people exercising to make them feel better in the long run, but I think it makes people feel their symptoms are worse than what they are.
What do you mean by men training?
Have you seen these videos? It's where you get a bloke training over like it's like, so it's 28 days. They'll have like a 28-day clock. Yeah. And they'll show a woman training through a follicular phase, being really energetic, like, oh my God, like I'm ready for training, really strong. Then going through ovulation, luteal, and showing that a bloke doesn't change, their intensity remains the same, but a woman's will vary based on that time. And I get the educative aspect of that, but I don't agree with the fact that I look through the comments and there's a lot of agreements in there, but I think some people then play off that in a way, which makes people feel, normally, right? No, women. Women play off that to stop themselves in exercising.
I see what you're saying there, because like I just said, you know, if we were to take the general menstrual cycle and say, oh, well, only train hard in the, you know, luteal phase where you feel great. Well, no, follicular phase, sorry. It, you know, you're limiting that block of training for yourself. Whereas if you took in regard to, I'm going to train all the time, obviously we've got to think of in like the general training aspect of like training blocks anyway, and when we put rest in and deloads and stuff. But yeah, if you're limiting yourself to that progression, whereas if you listen to your body and you know that, okay, yeah, you know, your period isn't the best and you get a lot of pain and fatigue around that, well, still train, but maybe just do one working set and don't work to absolute failure. Like, work with a different RPE instead of, you know, not training at all, or putting in yoga instead across your period. Like, it's really demoralizing to women that we can't strength train for a consistent amount of time just because we have a menstrual cycle. And like you're saying, yeah, like obviously when you start to see comments like that, like train like this on this part of your period, or change your training to this, not only are you training up you're changing your training up, which isn't helping progression anyway, it's obviously then causing you to mentally think that I can't progress on a certain point of my cycle. So yeah, I do agree with you on that one. And I think there's so, you know, we could speak here for hours about the fitness industry and how much, you know, there's so much information that's blown into it. I do just generally think you should do what is best for you in that regard.
What about calorie intake? So if we go out to the period real quick, there's been said that there's a portion of time where you can eat more calories, but your body's burning through more calories essentially. So with that being said, is that a factor that people can maybe take into consideration if they're feeling a bit...
100%. Yeah, it's something I do for my clients. So you got to think, so your natural BMR is increased when you are going through the bleed and the lead up to that. So BMR, basal metabolic rate. So that basically means that your body is needing more calories because it's going through another function. So yes, you could do that if there's some like particular days that you tend to feel more cravey. The reason why you get those cravings is because your brain is signaling to your body, well, your body's signaling to your brain, hey, like, we need more food here, like I need some energy. And then your brain remembers all of the times that you've had quick energy, and that is the cravey foods, the quick stuff that digests quickly. So if you wanted to be clever about it, and you do know that you tend to have cravings like on a certain day or like the lead up to certain days, adding in like a 300 calorie but adding like 300 calories to those days could play in your favor, because essentially your BMR is increased, so you'll basically just be eating maintenance calories if we're looking at it from like a scientific point. But let's say, for example, if you are someone like me and I'm on a bodybuilding prep, I can't do that. You know, you can't stray away. There may be options for you to be more clever about your food, so what foods you're choosing. But for the general public, like population of women, whether you have a condition or not, if you do feel those cravey days, you can increase up a little bit across a certain amount, and it will help you, and then you just go back to your normal calories afterwards. So it's not...
So obviously, I don't know Amy as well as you've done, but you said early on that you have a condition.
Yes.
What is that condition?
So do you want me to go back to the start, or just go literally straight in?
Just dive in.
So my condition is adenomyosis. So you have endometriosis, adenomyosis, and PCOS, like the main three that will be chucked around. Adenomyosis isn't as educated as endometriosis. So I'll try and explain it so it's not too confusing. So endometriosis is basically where the lining of your uterus, so it's like tissue, the similar, will basically attach itself to your ovaries, and it can actually grow outwards from there as well. So it can attach to your bowels, it can grow in other organs as well. So it's quite a scary condition if it's left to get severe. Adenomyosis, what I have, so the lining of my uterus grows on the inside of my muscle walls in my uterus, which means that my uterus is enlarged, and that tissue bleeds with my bleed. Right. So it basically amplifies all of the symptoms you would typically get with the period, and it's a lot to deal with. Originally they thought, so the two can actually go hand in hand, you can actually have both. And a lot of the time, like, a lot of women are misdiagnosed because of that. But yeah, not a lot of people have just the one, just adenomyosis. They have endometriosis and adenomyosis, or just endometriosis. So mine's a bit strange. I always knew that there was something wrong.
What causes it? Is there a fix as well?
There's research-wise, there's no particular cause to it. Yeah. The only correlation they have is a rise in estrogen. So that could be hereditary, like you could, you know, your family could pass that on, or from contraceptive pills. So where I was put on contraceptive pills quite at a young age, obviously my body is then getting more estrogen than it actually needs. And that is in like your growing teen years. So your body's producing it anyway, and then you've got more of it. So then that tissue can then cause, these conditions, unfortunately. But there is no specific cause to the conditions. You can't just say, oh, you have that because of this. There's things that could be caused by. Typically my condition, women get over 30 when they've had children, after they've had children. So it's very rare to see me that's 27 that's had no children. But it's unfortunately these things, as I said, are
hereditary.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you can't always, you can't change. You just have to work. Like I said just earlier, you have to work with these things. You can't work against it. And there's unfortunately no cure.
PCOS though, that's the one that a lot of women tend to have.
Well, actually, yeah, because I had this conversation a little. Oh, I think it was this morning. It was this morning. I'm losing track of days. It was this morning. I had a conversation. One of the ladies that I trained. She's not got PCOS, but she remembers a piece of content I made a long while ago on PCOS. And I think I quoted in there, it was like 1 in 14 women at that point in time had PCOS. That number's now changed from recent. It's now 1 in 10, I do believe. Yeah, 1 in 10, apparently. Probably even more than that.
PCOS is like, the research says 8 to 13% of people have PCOS, but that is diagnosed PCOS.
Yeah.
And the same with endometriosis, it's 1 in 10. And the same with adenomyosis, 1 in 10. But again, that is the people that have been diagnosed. So bear in mind, I was diagnosed last year, 2024, and I have been going to the doctors and the GP about this since I was 15, 16. So I'm 27 now. So you think how long that's taken to actually get. So typically the diagnosis time frame is 9 to 10 years to get diagnosed for endometriosis and adenomyosis.
Got PCOS as well?
I haven't got PCOS, no. Right. But these conditions, they can actually correlate with each other. So you can actually have all of them, which makes it obviously. So when I just said
playing life on hard mode, it's just like
when I was like, the general menstrual cycle, this is talking like someone who is lucky enough to have that 28-day cycle that runs smoothly as it can do. Then we've got, the next stage of person with like one condition. Then we've got the next stage of like people with multiple conditions, and then on top of that, whatever else you can have as well. So it does just.
So are there any recommendations for women out there with these conditions, especially PCOS? I'm not sure if that's the most common one out of the three of them.
Apologies for interrupting the podcast. We know you're getting fully engrossed into this episode, and we really appreciate you stopping on the video on YouTube or on Spotify if you found us through one of the search pages. Make sure to leave a review and a subscription if you haven't already. But we just wanted to interject a point here that me and Nick have 15 years of coaching experience between us, and it's only getting better as we've got better guests on the podcast. The only way we can do that, though, is with the growth of our program that we've just released. We've got a 12-month PerformWell program, which has just dropped, and we'd love you guys to get involved in it. If you want to learn more details, make sure to head to the description, as we've got our website in there, which can give you a full overlay of the program. We're looking to help career-driven professionals, entrepreneurs, small business owners, and anyone dominate their life by improving their lifestyle. Me and Nick like to claim ourselves as experts in this area, and if you want to check out some of our other transformations, I'm sure you do. We've got some amazing people who have performed so well off the back of this program. Have a cracking day, and we really appreciate your time. Let's get back to the podcast.
I would say
I've heard it the most, at least. Women
that I'm working with, I don't know whether it's because of obviously what I have and what I put out, I typically have more clients with endometriosis, and that to me in my area is more common. PCOS is also very common, so polycystic ovary syndrome. Can't get my words out today. There's also a symptom that I have is brain fog, by the way. Add that in. It's great to work with. So yeah, that is pretty typical, but it's something that you can manage more than endometriosis and adenomyosis. So typically you will see, the general like symptoms for that is like the facial hair, because it's a hormonal attachment to your ovaries, so you basically produce more testosterone. But the most common thing with PCOS is that they have insulin resistance. So when you have insulin resistance, basically your carbs don't digest properly and your body is resisting that insulin, which doesn't help in your favor when you are trying to lose body fat. So I would say if someone came to me with PCOS, would look into what they are actually struggling with first of all, because not everyone wants to lose weight. So that would be the first point of call. And then it would be a case of like, there is things you can do. You're managing your diet. No food is bad. There is no such thing as bad and good food. Food does not have morals, but there is food that obviously provides you with different nutritional values, and carbs are not bad. But when you have insulin resistance, you have to be clever with when you intake carbs and how you intake your carb. So that would be something that I would suggest to people if they experience PCOS or they're not diagnosed yet, may think that they have it, is to look into where you are, what foods you're having first of all, change your diet to a little bit more of a sustainable, more whole foods, but where you are having your carbs and how you're having your carbs. And what I mean by that is if you are waking up and having cereal for breakfast, insulin straight,
hey, leave my cereal alone.
Yeah, I was looking over there, I was like, nice. So it's about pairing it so that it doesn't just spike your insulin levels. And this is again like another whole topic, but having someone that knows what they're talking about is going to help you massively, because there is a lot of research, there is a lot of people chatting on the internet that confuses things. So if you have a coach that understands these things, it can help you know when to have your carbs and how to have your carbs.
And also with carbs as well, like there's different levels. Like we've got fast acting carbs, sugars basically, and then slow releasing. Oftentimes just reducing the sugary types of carbs and going for more slow releasing can make a difference. Anything that just helps energy balance out is going to be effective in making people feel better.
100%. Well, also even pairing them together. So like fruit is basically a high release carb, so pairing that with oats.
But then fruit also has fibre. Yeah. And fibre slows it down anyway.
Yeah. So honestly, it's just it's simplifying it. So making sure that most of your meals have a decent amount of all of those contributing factors, and then you'll be pretty good. Obviously, there's like supplementations that you can take, things like that, which again, I would make sure that the client is in the position to do so first. So I would look into their training, their diet first, and the general stuff. Are you drinking enough water? Are you walking enough? Because those are the things that are going to help you the most. And then you can look into, okay, well, that hasn't helped in the first couple of weeks. Let's add some supplements that will help you. And there is a lot that can help massively. But again, everyone is very different, and you don't want to just go, here's supplements that everyone should take, because it doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the supplement conversation, we've had this conversation before in podcasts.
Many times.
The first thing to do is try and get the foundations right, because supplements, like every supplement has a benefit that you want, which means that if you were to buy every supplement, you would end up out of pocket with 100%. Loads of supplements.
And then you've got like a whole, I am being contradicting because I do have a whole handful in the morning, but you'd have a whole handful of supplements to take, and if you're just taking them based off like, oh, this TikToker said take this for this, and oh, I have PCOS, so let's take that, and take this for endometriosis. Like you're just there. Like,
they all sound so good. Can you dry swallow though? Like the pills?
I'll take all of them.
Yeah, I do that.
It takes me forever to swallow a pill.
I think like
probably not the same
as well. Where like being a bodybuilder as well, you're like, oh, you got to take this.
When I was doing bodybuilding in the past, I was taking that L-carnitine, which is completely pointless. Like I found CLA. Fermented cod liver oil, but it had to be fermented, which was awful, and I had to squirt in the back of my
nasty.
Mate, I did the full shebang, man, and then I realised that I was spending all this money and all this effort just for like I could have had food.
But also it's like foundationally, like you just said there, if people haven't got the foundations of a diet in place, why are we even looking at supplementation in the first place? People are then spending more money on things that are not necessary when you can then save to invest in something that's more important, like coaching. I did want to kind of go little plug.
There.
You say that though, but I had a conversation with someone the other day who said, why don't people see health as the one investment they should be making, like a non-negotiable thing? People are investing so much more money into other things that are less important. But this is the thing. Yeah, exactly.
People that know they have a problem seek help. But most people don't. Most people think that it's normal to wake up feeling shit. It's not normal because everyone else says they feel shit.
It's become standardized. Yeah. It's become standardized to feel like shit in the morning. It's rise and grind culture. And actually, I did want to come on to that because one of the big things and big talking points around these conditions is energy levels and how you have to kind of, as you've said very, very eloquently, the way you have to kind of alternate things depending on how you're feeling. With yourself, when you've come into training sessions, when you've gone and sat at home, how do you deal with kind of low energy levels, low mood? What is like your
So personally for me, so let's just take away like anyone experiencing anything. So don't take this literally to what you have to do as well. But personally for me, you know, I had my operation at the start of this year to diagnose potential endometriosis, which I don't have. So, you know, some may say I'm lucky that I don't have that. With what I have still comes with all of the negative effects of a condition the same. So for me though, with adenomyosis, I know when a flare up is coming because it comes when you bleed. So that plays in my favor. With people with endometriosis, they'll have flare ups whenever their hormone balance are slightly out, whenever they're fatigued. So it's going to be very different to how others manage that. For me, mine's my bleed, and it's the first sort of 4 days. So I'm on day 3 at the moment and I'm struggling today, but a lot of the symptoms that I have is brain fog, really awful. I'll sit down and I just can't, there's nothing that processes in my brain. And the actual fatigue that you get. So obviously alongside the pain that you're experiencing from like your normal period, you'll have, so me personally, I get back pain. It shoots all the way down into my glutes, the backs of my legs. You feel like your body is like a bag of rocks and like my whole uterus is just going to fall out of me at any moment. So you're so heavy. Then obviously you've got like the general things that most women will say, like they're bloated and they don't feel good in themselves, which is obviously something that you manage anyway. But for me, what I struggle with the most is the brain fog because of the productivity of trying to run a business, but then also trying to be a successful bodybuilder as something I've really had to like manage, because I am not like everybody else and I can't train like everybody else and I can't have the structure like everybody else. But I'm saying I can't because that is what's typically seen. I have my own structure, and that's why I'm always so big on work on with what you have, work with your body and not against it. So for me, it would be a case of I do deload across my period. I still train. So when I'm bleeding, I still go to the gym. I still train my 5 days a week if I can. So for a great example, this week, I was meant to train on Monday, Tuesday. That did not happen because when I'm at my 5, so I mentioned that rating point earlier, 1 is like, it's there, but I can still go and train and get on with what I can. 5 is bed bound. So basically, when you have the pain, it like pulls you down and I can't like straighten up properly. So I'm just walking around like a little old lady. So for me, that's like a clear no, like I'm not training. And it's taken me a long time to understand that and not pressurize myself with it, because in no way, shape or form is it going to be productive for me to go to the gym. Like there is absolutely no way that I'm going to get any progress out of that session because my body is at its most stressed and inflamed point. So for me, that is a clear, I'm going to rest today, make sure I drink, still hit all my meals. If I get steps, great, like fantastic. That's an added bonus. Then when the scale moves a little bit, so it's like the 1 to 3 days, it can always change. Then I'll just train as normal. But if I've scheduled in that deload, it will be 1 working set. I won't take it to absolute failure because you know how I train. And I'll just try and keep it within my limits. And that is the most important part. Yes, you know, progression is done by how hard you're training, but that's how hard you are training. So you can still take things to failure on what your perceived failure is on that particular day. So like I said, it's very generalized. There's no clear plan. And I have made like flare plans for some of my clients. So it'll be a case of like, they need to understand their body first. I'll work with them to understand when most flares occur so that we can work with that and how we're going to approach that when that flare happens, because you can never guarantee when it happens. It can happen in the morning, it can happen in the night, you know, in the middle of the night, so then you wake up groggy. You can't plan for it. There's only so much you can do in regards to, right, if that happens, this is what I'll do for that day. So today I will train later. I was meant to train this morning. I've done my cardio this morning when I felt better. I've got my steps in. I will still drink and I'll still eat. Like, that is still, to me, an accomplishment, and I'm still one step moving forwards. And I don't let it, I used to, but I don't let it define me and my training anymore. Just because I have that doesn't mean I can't be a good bodybuilder. And I've proven to myself because I've done it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of another, like you touched on the mission at the start, is to empower other people. You don't have to be a bodybuilder or a competitive bodybuilder or get on stage to prove that you can do things with a condition or be a woman, but just to show you what you can do when you put your mind to something. Because I didn't know I had, I knew there was something. I was still dealing with this when I competed. I didn't know what it was, but I still did it, and I still did it well, because in my head I knew I wanted to do well at it. So when you know you can do something, don't let that one thing change or alter your perception of what you can achieve. So yeah, long story short, training in regards to what you are capable of doing, and having maybe a generalized plan but not one set in stone.
Yeah, I tend to work off a basis of like a traffic light system with a lot of the ladies that I've got, and that worked really well. There was a lady called Hannah, she's probably listening to this podcast, and she did amazing, got a transformation in 12 weeks, but she knew all her conditions. She had I keep saying, want to say it's adenomyosis, but I had adenomyosis.
Yeah.
I want to call it
You've got
adenomyosis.
to say it like we've learned
adenomyosis.
Adenomyosis. Yeah, that's how I say it.
Adenomyosis.
I don't know how to say it.
What does she have? PCOS as well. So she's got 2 out of 3 already. Yeah. Can't remember if she had endo or not, but she did really well in working around this kind of like traffic light system baseline week, because it meant she felt productive. Because I think that's one of the big areas that a lot of ladies struggle with, is the lack of feeling of productivity. They just don't feel like they're getting anywhere, and then they're the hardest weeks that you've got to have the conversations with them. And it's not like you don't have to have a kick your ass conversation. It is genuinely a sit down and be like, why are you feeling this way? What is actually going on here? What can you do? What can't you do?
And I think being true to yourself as well, because, like you said earlier, we're in this industry and this world of wake up, do yoga and write out all of your to-dos for the day. And like, realistically, it doesn't happen for everyone, and we're not always going to wake up feeling, tip top, but you can better how you feel. Did I wake up this morning feeling as bright as I normally do? Absolutely not. Like, no, but I get up, I rehydrate, I take my electrolytes, I eat my normal breakfast, I look after my gut health. All of those things play in my favour for the next time I have my period and the next flare up I have. And if one thing can help by 1%, it's better than, laying there and, essentially go, I'm in pain, I can't do anything. Because that's, a lot of us feel that way. And like, when you do have a condition that is making you bedbound, you can't move, there is no way you can do anything, and it is deliberating, because it's an invisible thing. Like, you're not, someone isn't going to look at you and go, oh, there's something wrong with her. But there's so many women that deal with this and have to go to work and have to look after their kids and still have to train. And if you allow yourself to work with yourself, you can still do amazing things. But it's learning, like you said, and like I said, learning about your body, understanding when you can push and when you need to pull back a little bit, but understanding that pullback isn't a setback. It's just a temporary zoom out, allow things to happen and analyse the situation. And then when you're able to move forwards again, you can do that with full force. It's like, I
think that's quote of the podcast, that. What was it? Setback, not pullback?
Yeah.
That one.
I like it. It's going straight on my wall.
Let's fit that. I think we need to move on, mate. I think we go to the wheel.
You're on the wheel. You're on the wheel.
Yeah.
You're on the wheel.
But you haven't seen the wheel yet.
What is the wheel? I kind of saw it.
I mean, you might have seen it.
I wasn't allowed to know what it was.
The first podcast we did was Kia with it, wasn't it?
Kia and Cream. We have the wheel.
Do you want to go there, Dan? Because unfortunately, your cable will not reach that far.
That's what they all say. Sorry. I know. Sorry, I've got to keep it PG. My bad. No, I'll try not to. Get it out.
There's a bit of space though, you
Lovely. Welcome to the wheel.
So, underrated or overrated? Good question.
Oh, okay, I get it.
Amy, we've got to get you first. You've got to spin it.
Go on. Oh, spin it.
Go on.
Yeah.
Oh, try not to break it.
Oh, so satisfying. Gives me so much joy. My little autistic brain is like,
hot topic.
Supplements.
I won't dive into this too deeply.
So overrated or underrated?
Overrated. You don't need them.
No.
That is literally what they are. They are a supplementation.
And I think in some cases, I'm going to be devil's advocate. I think in some cases, like we're speaking generally, I think in some cases they can be underrated depending on, again, where your structure is. And a lot of the answers will probably be like that. But
generally overrated.
Generally overrated.
Yeah, generally overrated, unless you've got some kind of specific.
There was a big conspiracy for ages that came out. I think it was when Eddie Abu was bringing his stuff out. Everyone was like, oh, supplement agencies are just profiting off the fact that companies have taken nutrients out of things. But actually, in reality, I don't know how deep you can go on that.
Deficiency in soil is an actual issue. So since agriculture has been so like farmland's been heavily used, topsoil has lost nutrients. And so food does have less nutrients nowadays.
Good to know. Right.
I mean, specifics they can work on.
Not all food, but most of the food that you get from like the Tesco and processed section of the store. Anyway,
the fun section.
Spend all day on that topic. We'll just do another topic on that one.
So what the poo is next.
Yeah.
Just you wait.
All the big
conspiracy theorists. Good gut health.
Underrated.
I think it's underrated.
Yeah.
But I think it's at the minute we're at that stage with education online where I don't think we've quite got high good educators yet, if that makes sense. Like those accounts haven't exactly exploded, so they're not sitting in that top bracket yet.
So is a company that is based on trying to improve your gut health primarily.
Which one?
Zoe.
Who?
Zoe.
Zoe.
The
right.
What do you call it? The program.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
There's that guy who backs it. I can't remember his name, but Rob was telling me. Rob been on the podcast before. Rob Bradley. He's a big proponent of gut health. He's done so much on it. There are people out there that are pioneering.
He was eating sauerkraut on his fucking cycle.
Mate, it just goes to show like it really is a big thing. And
I would agree with that in regards to the conditions we've been speaking about. Good gut health can
and they say your
help.
gut is your second brain. It's actually very tightly linked with your brain 100%. And what your cravings are based on too.
Good to know. I need to learn more on
this.
Going
to the fecal impact, the fecal transfer between two people, where basically an overweight person had fecal matter replaced with someone that wasn't overweight, and then they start getting cravings for better foods. So when I say better, I mean like healthier, like alternatives. And then the the fit person then became more overweight because their cravings changed.
Because of the gut bacteria.
Having gut bacteria transferred. It's wild.
It's wild. But you're right with the second brain thing.
Yeah. Big boy, innit?
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting.
Oh, this is
no.
But
that's even worse.
Wait. Go.
Intermittent fasting.
I think this is gonna be a good one.
I think intermittent fasting is, I would say in the middle, but I would say slightly overrated.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. But if we're going like not general population bodybuilding, if you're on a prep, pushing your meals later on in the day plays in your favour.
I was saying this before, Dan,
but you're still eating the same calories.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're reducing your food and you still eat the same meals. You just push that first meal just a little bit later.
From what I've heard, females have a slightly harder time with intermittent fasting.
Yes.
At least some do. There are slightly different rules. I would imagine that you probably
There's research saying that we need at least 20 grams of protein and a small amount of carbs in the morning. Like if you're training anyway, like you can do, I'd say if you're going for a walk or doing fasted cardio or whatever, fine. But if you're training, you need something.
But what a cheat for like if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're okay with it, having all your meals within a short window, you can eat like a king or queen.
Yeah, wow.
I think this is where my conversation I come in at kind of the overrated on the general populace, because the amount of times I had a conversation with someone this week regarding, they'll be like, I do intermittent fasting. My first question is why?
Why?
Yeah. My first question is why. If I'm intermittent fasting, it becomes someone's personality. It drives me insane. Anyway, but like when the general population say, you've distracted me now. When people use it and they say it's a fat loss tool, I'm like, no. What the fat loss tool is how many calories you're consuming, and because you're not eating that meal, you are naturally creating a gap in terms of where you're not eating calories. If you eat back those calories later in the day, it's just as good as a normal diet. It's exactly the same. It doesn't change. It doesn't. Like people say, it increases fat burning. It doesn't, because then it balances out later in the day. Things to factor in.
But it can improve craving control.
It can.
Yeah.
But again, it comes.
I think better at dealing with hunger.
I think it comes to a personal discipline point too, though, as well at that point.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, like, I hate to be that person, but a lot of people who come in at like the low level of fitness don't have that level of discipline.
You don't need it. You don't need it. Eat your
That's
meals
the
as
main
normal.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to go again?
Go.
Yeah, go on.
Come.
Just saw no pain, no gain.
Yeah.
I hope it goes that way.
I've got some good ones on there. Go.
What's that?
Consistency versus perfection.
Well, I think we all know consistency is going to be better than perfection, don't we?
Yeah, it's underrated.
Yeah.
It's underrated because the people always strive for perfection. I
Screw
think
perfectionism.
Yeah.
Screw it.
There's no way you can be perfect all the time.
No.
We spoke about that a lot on the pod as well.
Yeah.
Go. You're trying to get the sound of it on the mic.
Trying to get away from the mic. What's that?
Strength training.
Underrated.
Strength training. Yeah, underrated. Underrated, I think there's not enough. There's still not enough to this day, people strength training. No. Because I think the inroad that people believe it is, everyone thinks you have to go to the gym. You don't. Start doing some air squats. You know, I did an air squat while we were doing the podcast last week. It was horrible. But start doing some kind of movement that you're starting to work the ranges of motion that you're capable of. Yeah. I had a 62-year-old woman come in with me. You've met her. Mm-hmm. She sits there in a what's called an Asian squat position because she's done it for years, but she also strength trains, and she's 62 and has the mobility of a queen. Yeah.
But strength training doesn't mean that you need to do bodybuilding or like bloody powerlifting. It's just like just go in, do a bit of resistance training. It's so good for
resistance training. Like if you replace it from strength training to resistance training, basically says what it is.
Yeah,
just resistance.
Yeah. Any kind of resistance.
You don't need to be going ham sandwich on
underrated.
Those.
Underrated. Oh, for sure.
Underrated. Get training. Sorry. Autism. We don't.
No.
Cold plunge and ice baths.
I think these are overrated, you know. The research I've actually done on this is very little to actually how it helps recovery. But I won't go into that.
If we're talking general population, overrated.
Yeah.
For sure. It has benefits, and most of those benefits are that mental resilience you get from it, as opposed to anything else.
Yeah.
But Wim Hof does swear by it helping.
But I think, now, one thing I will say, because I saw something on somebody else's podcast the other day, they're a hybrid athlete. I put that in air quotes because we still don't know what that means. But in the bodybuilding world, for you especially, overrated because it does slow down muscle protein synthesis throughout the day. Right. So it's not very beneficial for what you're wanting to do.
After, it helps with recovery, but it also slows down muscle tissue repair.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say if you are going to do them on rest days.
Yeah,
if you wanted it.
If you want to.
I think most of these come back.
It's not very enjoyable.
Yeah, most of these are just fucking trends.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Eastern philosophy and medicine has shown that there's certain ways of living and doing things that have worked for a long period of time, and science is only barely catching up.
Yeah.
It's like, stop getting so sucked into trends.
Yeah, because we hear one thing. Right, we are going to wrap up there because we appreciate you guys watching. Now, the last thing that we do, Amy, is you can plug away. So where can people find more about you?
So if you would like any further help or guidance on anything we've spoken about today, my Instagram is AGPT Coaching, and you can find a lot of helpful reels, or if you need any help at all, please just pop me a message and I will be happy to help.
Lovely. Amazing stuff. Well, thank you very much for liking, following, subscribing, and make sure to leave a review. We love a 5 stars, and so do you. And make sure to catch us on the next podcast, and we will catch you guys later.
Bye.
Ciao.